Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road. This episode of Conversations with Big Rich is brought to you by the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. The mission of the Hall of Fame is to educate and inspire present and future generations of the off-road community by celebrating the achievements of those who came before. We invite you to help fulfill the mission of the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. Join, partner, or donate today. Legends live at ORMHOF.org. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, it is my honor to talk with Brian Chuchua. Brian is a 1978 inductee into the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. His first race was in 1954, just a year or two after getting his Jeep, and the same year that he graduated high school. He was on the Jeep Jamboree in 1954 on the Rubicon. In 1960, he drove his Jeep to the Panama Canal. He opened a dealership in 1963 in Fullerton, California, and he's one of the founding fathers of SEMA in 63. And that's just the beginning. Brian, thank you so much for spending the time and talking today about your history.
You're very welcome.
So let's start off right at the very beginning. Where were you born and raised?
Born in Bell, California.
Bell, California, Southern, yep.
I went to State Street Elementary School in Huntington Park. Then from there, we moved to Southgate, and I went to Stanford Avenue School. And then from there, I went to Southgate Junior High School, which I graduated from. And then my folks moved to La Habra Heights, so I had to transfer to Fullerton High School. I graduated Fullerton High School in 54. I went on to Fullerton Junior College, graduated in 56. And that's kind of
your schooling background?
Yeah.
And how were you as a student? Were you a good student, or were you preoccupied with things outside of the school?
I'd say right in the middle on the schooling, and then the off-roading, was part of it for me, because every weekend I'd head for the desert when I was in high school, and just would spend the weekends, camping. And with my Jeep, and then I made accessories for my Jeep, and people said, "Well, gee, I want one of those." So that's where I got started at making roll bars and tow bars, and I sold roll bars to Chevrolet for their Corvettes. I did obviously roll bars for Jeeps, and then that was kind of where manufacturing. My father owned a steel warehouse in Compton, and I did a lot of my working there.
Is that where you learned to weld as well?
I learned to weld in really high school. Fullerton High School had a welding class, a sheet metal class, paint class, and all the automotive stuff, which doesn't exist today. And I took every class they had.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wish that was one of the things that we still offered instead of some of the other social
it's,
education that the kids are getting nowadays.
the education today is not career advancing for sure.
Correct. Correct. And so you really liked the shop classes, I would imagine.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite classes.
Right.
And so I got my best grades to, you know, English or history or something, mediocre grades, but anything to do with shops, I was top of the class.
That's excellent. And your dad helped you get your first Jeep?
Yes, he we had an avocado orchard in La Arbor Heights, and he bought a Jeep from trying to think. I don't remember where he bought it. It was yeah, 48 CJ2A.
One of the old flat fenders, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And did you run that pretty much stock, or did you fix it up before you getting your driver's license?
Uh, and fixed it up. I bought a soda heads for Hickey. He made soda heads for the 4-cylinder Jeep, and I bought it. His dual wheel adapters had dual wheels on the back, and and then in 1955, I bought a Plymouth V8 and installed that in the Jeep. And that was the first of my conversions. And then uh, with Willie Gardner who made adapters for all kinds of cars. I was selling his Jeep versions all over the world, and that's how I got started.
Okay.
And
In early there, right after high school, I take it that you went on the Rubicon for the first time in 1954.
that'd be probably correct on the date. And also, the Hammett Jeep cavalcade was big in those days. And then I think what else?
That was like, I think Jeepers Jamboree, or that the runs on the Rubicon started in 1953. So you were one of the very first ones. Do you remember what that experience was like?
Well, it was two things. I'm a teetotaler, so I was shocked at the amount of alcohol that's consumed on one of these trips. But that it was interesting because I had my Jeep with the V8 Plymouth in it, and so I was just amazed at what you could do with the rocks, on the steep trail and the Rubicon. It was very interesting. It was couldn't wait to go again. And then I later became a owner of 1/16 share of the Rubicon.
Okay.
So I still have that share.
Oh, really? And that's of the Rubicon Springs?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Nice.
An opportunity came up, and a, a bunch of us from Jeep Corporation and each bought a share when they were available.
Well, that's awesome. When was the last time that you were on the Rubicon?
Ooh, probably at least 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
I was on the board of directors for a long time. I would attend the board of directors meetings, but they were held at a hotel and not in the rough.
Okay. And from there, you in the 50s you started racing, as well. Do you want to talk about that first time racing the Jeep?
But yeah, that was at Brigla Springs at Brigla Springs Resort, and they had annual Jeep races, and I saw their ad in the Automobile Club of Southern California magazine, and I saw the ad for the event, so I entered it, and I won the class, or won the event. But there was a serious injury in the event. One of the Jeeps crashed into a concrete abutment, and from then they canceled any future events. So that was the end of that series.
But
I still,
it got you hooked on racing.
yeah, it got me. And I was drag racing my Jeep with the V8 in it at all the local drag strips. So I was very, very active with racing the Jeep on a drag strip. He was Orange County, Pomona. I don't remember where all the tracks were now. Irvine. With my age now, I remember it's not.
Right. No, that's okay. We don't need all the specific details, but what you can remember is great. So then, was that a shortened wheel? Was that still the short wheelbase, or did you extend the wheelbase to drag race it?
Just the original wheelbase of
Wow.
the CJ.
That's that. Do you know what? Do you remember the speeds that you were going?
Yeah, around always 99 miles an hour, and I think it was 15 seconds. But it was always strange. I could never get past that 99 figure.
Well, in a wheelbase that's only like 82 to 84 inches, that's scooting along pretty good in a short wheelbase.
Yeah, it was fun. And then I bought a '57 Corvette, and I started drag racing and running El Mirage, and I think the beds in Utah with at Bonneville.
Oh, really? Okay.
So at one time with the Corvette, I had all the records that were available for all the different kinds of racing. That was for a short period of time.
Wow, that's incredible.
Because I ran Bonneville with my Corvette. And this time I had a '58 Corvette, and a Potman's supercharger, and with I think it was 178 miles per hour is what I accomplished at Bonneville then.
Wow.
Which is nothing today. That's the speeds today are phenomenal. They're really with all kinds of racing.
Yeah, but it's all a perspective, and the technology back then was not the technology that it is now. So the speed rated tires and all that kind of thing, and just the safety standards alone anymore are a vast difference. So 178 in a 1958 Corvette is something to be really proud of.
Yeah, I made the cover of Popular Mechanics. They had a picture of that.
Nice.
That's a Corvette.
And then as you got into the 60s, you were considered a very experienced off-road driver and racer, and especially with the Jeeps, and you got a dealership. You entered a Jeep dealership. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was they came by and offered me a dealership, and it's hard to pass up. Uh, the requirements for a Jeep dealership then was $5,000 worth of parts purchase and a bank flooring plan for 9 vehicles, and that's all costing a dealership. Today, you're talking $1 million.
Right.
Then, I borrowed $5,000 from my father, and that I bought the tools, and my father co-signed for me with Bank of America, which got me the flooring line for 9 vehicles, and I've leased a building in Bogdamuckenthaler in Fullerton, which was the old packing house for the citrus, and made that into the dealership, and it was there at the corner of the harbor and the 91 freeway.
Very good.
And then from there, then I bought a piece of land in Placentia and built to move the dealership there and the old new facility. At that time, I had one of the nicest facilities around for Jeep, and Jeep used my facility and lots of commercials.
Very good. And how long did you have that Jeep dealership?
Oh, around 55 years.
Whoa. Okay. Very good. And you did a trip to Panama, the Panama Canal, in your Jeep. And was this the V8 Jeep?
This was I was a CJ2A Jeep with, but this time I had a fuel injected Corvette V8. So I drove that to Panama, but I did roll it over in a river in Costa Rica. The Pan American Highway existed, but the bridges didn't exist. So you had to ford all these rivers. And I got one that water was a little bit too fast, and it rolled me. But we just got the Jeep out of the water, and I continued on to Panama, just with a few bruises to the vehicle that weren't there when I started.
But rolled it over in a river. Wow, that's incredible. And did you do that trip alone, or was there a group of you?
No, I started off with a fellow named Alan Dessenhoff, and as we arranged the trip, he got his draft notice.
Oh,
So he went as far as Mexico City with me, and then he had some reports in the military. I got my draft notice, and I went with my class from Fullerton to Los Angeles with our toothbrushes, and I reported, for the draft, but then they 4F'd me with flat feet, believe it or not.
really?
So that was that flat foot thing existed. So I didn't have to go, but Alan and all my high school friends all went.
So do you think that flat foot helped with your gas pedal foot?
Yeah, probably helped if not slipping off the pedal as often.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay. And with the dealership, you ended up being you sponsored quite a few drivers, and it was a dealership of Jeep, and you did Corvettes as well.
Yes, I raced the Corvettes as well as the Jeep. And I did. I raced, for with the Corvette. Well, even the Jeep, I raced it. A lot of places I raced the Jeep, the Corvette at the same place.
And most of that was drag racing?
Well, drag racing at El Mirage at Dry Lakes and then Waterville. And
And
that's,
then you became the National Hot Rod Association asked you to captain the U.S. drag racing team for a trip to England. Is that correct?
that's correct, because I was captain of the U.S. drag racing team.
And what was that
And
trip like?
it was good. I had went previously with Dean Boone, and he had challenged Alan Allard in a drag race event in England. So I went as a crew member with Dean Boone, and so we attended several different tracks around England, demonstrating the drag race between Allard and Dean Boone's Moon Eyes. And the interesting thing about England, I went over as a crew member, and as a crew member, I was not allowed to attend any events because in England they were class conscious, and a crew member was not thought highly of, and the lead moon, who was the owner of the vehicle, went to all these fancy meetings. But it was interesting. Just we don't have that experience here, but I'll never forget that. I was just low class on the totem pole.
Little did they know.
You know, but when I became friends with Allard. Allard came over and his Allard's son, Alan. He came over and spent some time with us at the Jeep dealership.
And he was able to attend everything you guys did here in the States, right?
Yeah, there's no, absolutely, and then more. So that was a very interesting experience. But then I was reading an advertisement, I believe in the LA Times, saying there was a rally being put on from London to Mexico City. And so I replied to that ad and I paid my dues and joined. I went on that rally. That was my first, thing outside the United States other than the Panama event.
And what was that like, London to Mexico?
It was good. I got time barred in Brazil, and I was excluded from the event after that. I followed along with it, but I was we had lost a rear axle. Jeep had a problem. They forgot to put grease in the axles of a group of vehicles. Then I was fortunate enough to get one that didn't have grease. So we had a spare axle. I replaced it, but we didn't do it in our allotted time, and we're time barred. Now the rally since then, the time bar thing kind of went away, but I I then went from the London Mexico one. I did the London Munich,
To Australia?
the Australia Sydney, from London to Sydney. That
That
was
and that's quite the trip
18,000.
there.
The thing then, the rallies then were different than today. Then you had whoever was in the car had to stay in the car for the whole event, and we ran, a week nonstop. There's no stopping for night for rest. So it was the events, were continuous.
So from London to Sydney, you guys went through the Middle East into India, then to
Yeah,
Singapore, and then across to Australia.
that's correct.
That's
That was
incredible.
it was wild. It was a good experience. Then the London, Sydney, we won our class, and that was we ended up at the Sydney Opera House, and I drove a Jeep up the steps of the Opera House. That's something no one else had done.
Probably still hasn't done.
Yeah, I obviously go to jail if you got caught you today.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
That Sydney Opera House is, is very sacred.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous building.
Yeah, but that was where the rally ended.
And that's incredible. And then you also had a race across the African continent.
Yeah, the London Munich went down as far south as Kano, Nigeria, and we did that. But we on the way back there was, I believe, was 5 vehicles remaining in the rally. The rest of it all had ceased by attrition, and we were in Turkey, and we crashed into a flock of sheep and hit several trees and totaled the car and put me in the hospital. So at that point, that was the end of the London Munich. I ended up with a ruptured intestine from the seatbelt.
And you were in a hospital in Turkey?
Yeah, in Turkey for 13 days, and this is the cost of the hospital and the doctors and stuff was rather exorbitant. I think I ended up having to pay $73.
$73. That's a little bit different than nowadays.
Yeah, big difference. But that was an interesting experience.
I would imagine because I can't imagine what a hospital in Turkey back then was like, um, even compared to the United States then or now.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I compared it as it was USA 1930.
wow.
That's it was.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you survived that.
But where we crashed was close to the hospital, so that was convenient. And then so I spent 13 days in the hospital. You know,
And then after that, you were able to fly home.
yeah, I flew home. Doug Ford and was like one of my co-drivers.
Okay.
He ended up with a broken ankle, I think, but he went home immediately.
But if you had a perforated intestine, you weren't leaving right away.
That's right. Yes, I had a rupture of the small intestine from
Wow.
the seatbelt, the safety of a seatbelt.
And what kind of racing did you do after that? Was that into Baja then?
Yeah, well, Baja, I ended the first events with, I, yeah, Baja. That was Ed Perlman put those events on, and I ran a group of sponsored a group of vehicles in the first Baja race.
Yeah, and that first event that that Perlman did, that was it 65, that or 67, excuse me, 1967 Mexican 1000. What drivers did you sponsor?
Ron Hall was one.
And then, but in that race also was like Bill Strop, Larry Minor.
Yeah, Steve McQueen.
And Dick Seepeck and Vic Hickey, maybe?
Well, Hickey, interesting story. That's where I bought my first accessory for Jeeps because he made them. And come to find out, Hickey went to school with my mother
Oh, really?
at Southgate and Hyde Park High Schools. They were, Hyde Park High School got wiped out and during the earthquake, and they transferred to Southgate because that school was not damaged. So yeah, Hickey, I would spend a lot of time around his garage. That was where I spent my spare time, and with him and his vehicles. With Hickey and a group of 5 other people, we've built the Chevrolet Blazer, the first Blazer. And we sold the name Blazer to Chevrolet. So we got some income. And the Blazer was had a Corvair engine and was fiberglass. It was an interesting vehicle.
So it wasn't a production vehicle then?
No. But the name, Blazer came from us. And it was we had gotten an emblem off of a wood stove that said Blazer was the name of the stove, and that was the insignia we used.
That's a great story right there. Do you remember how that Blazer did?
Well, it made a lot of magazines. Revell made a model of it, and it was very popular. I ended up down the road with the ownership of the Blazer. Hickey, and everybody else sold their shares, and I ended up with the wall. And then Adolf Shopey from Fluidmaster had bought the Blazer from Hickey, and I bought it from Fluidmaster. The mistake I made is I sold it back to Hickey, which was the right place for the car to go, but I sold it to him for I think $800, and I'm sure that car today is well worth over $1 million.
I would imagine that's a piece of history there.
That's trying to think what.
So getting voted into the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, you were in that first class of 1978, and really didn't. That was Ed Perlman had put that together. And did you guys have an understanding of what that meant? To the future that it might, or what it might mean?
I didn't know where it was going to go, but it was George Elliott sponsored me in that event to the Off-Road Hall of Fame. He was my sponsor, and it was it struggled on for a while. It was a good event, but it really didn't come alive until Ron Hall bought Perlman out, and then Ron Hall got the thing with the right people, got it moving, and then it's gone to where it's gone today. Slowly to get there, but it now is the thing.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame now is. There's over 100 and is it over 130 inductees now?
There's a big number. I don't honestly know the number,
but you were in that first class.
The very first class, That was thanks to George Elliott. George Elliott was the editor of one of Peterson's four-wheel drive books.
Okay. And you said earlier before we started recording that you had, it's been a while since you've been to the Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's probably been, well, with the COVID virus, and that took 2 years away, and it probably been maybe 5 years since I've been to an event.
Okay. So you were able to go to the Vegas events then, at least.
Yeah, I've been to lots of Vegas events. I mean, there's for Off-Road Hall of Fame.
And let's talk about SEMA and the Special Equipment Manufacturers Association and how that came about. You were one of the founding members of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, with Dean Boone and myself. Dean Boone was, I think, either the first or second president
Or SEMA?
for SEMA. He was Willie Gardner. I'm trying to think of who all was. There was about eight or nine of us that, yeah, we would meet at the restaurant there off of the 5 freeway in Norwalk, and just had all original meetings. I think today I'm probably the sole survivor of the living survivor of the original SEMA people.
Right. And what was the force behind that made you guys go ahead and create that? Was it starting of government regulations, or was it just a way of bringing all the equipment manufacturers together?
The original thing that was put there to fight the legislation on wheels, because all these special wheels that people were coming out with, and it was Bell Auto and Willie Gardner, and they formed this group to get legislation established on wheels. And that's where it got started. And it was Speed Equipment Manufacturing Association was not specially, it was Speed was
Okay.
the original name.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, how long were you involved with SEMA?
Oh,
Quite a few years.
yeah, I don't know. It was a long time, but I can't honestly say, I can't tell you without looking up somewhere.
No worries. And when was the last time you were in Vegas for one of the SEMA shows?
I went to all the SEMA shows up until the virus hit.
Oh, wow.
So I would go, always went to SEMA. I attended in the early days. I actually had a display booth, and I would display my off-road accessories at SEMA. But in the later years, I just always went on SEMA just to see what was happening.
Right, and it's an amazing show.
Absolutely, so it was unbelievable. But now the main vehicle of the SEMA show now is 4-wheel drives. It's just got away from the dragsters and that group of people. It was a switch.
Right, the off road is a huge part of that that show.
That's the big part, But so it's just been maybe 5 years since I've been to a SEMA show.
Okay, about the same for the Off Road Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans on trying to get to the Off Road Motorsports Hall of Fame gala again?
Yeah, I bought tickets last time to go, but my health didn't let me go. I did actually go. I was supposed they were giving out free tickets, but I bought my ticket, which was fine. I don't have no problem with that. It went to a good source. But I look forward to I will I got my invitation in the mail, I guess, last week for September,
Right.
which is changed from November to September. I changed the venue.
Yeah,
So I,
that's unfortunate that we had to change the dates, but next year we'll be back there at the in the November date.
oh, we will? Okay, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah, it was just a 1 year mishap, you might say.
Okay. Well, I have the entry, so I will be, I'll submit it to health preventing or permitting, will attend. So,
Who was your biggest influence for you in your racing or off road career?
it would have been Vic Hickey, I would guess. And all the biggest supporter and who went at all events, most events I went on was Dean Boone of Boone Equipment. He and I, travel the world on different off road events.
That's pretty good company.
Yep.
And do you still have in your possession any of those old race Jeeps
No,
or the Corvettes?
no.
Okay.
I still, all those cars, I sold off what I had for, $800, $1,000, that was a big number on my Corvette. And all those cars, if I had them today, they're all they are at different museums around the world. And I'm sure a few of them are valued around $1 million, but wasn't able to be smart enough to save those vehicles and capitalize on that.
Well, it's a good thing that those vehicles, most of them have survived
Yeah,
for history. That's that's a great thing.
yeah, no, that is still a big plus. But
If we knew that we were creating history while we were doing it, we may have done things a little differently, right?
but it's big time now because it's the amount of dollars involved. I could build fix up Jeep, one of my Jeeps up to go to the 1,000 or something. I wouldn't spend maybe $2,000 to get it ready to go. Today, a Baja vehicle, or in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's unbelievable.
Right. $2,000 wouldn't even buy the tires nowadays.
That's right. But those days, we did get the tires for free. That was a plus.
I would imagine there's still some people getting tires for free, but not a whole lot of them.
You know, I got a chance online, Spark Plugs invited Dean Boone and I to go to the Indianapolis 500. So we went there. We spent a whole month with working up to that race. It was all the different meetings and parties and stuff. It was 1963. And it was, big thing for Boone and I to attend.
That was the Indy 500 in 1963?
That's correct.
Wow.
I had a silver badge, and Boone had a silver badge. And a silver badge gave you access to anywhere in the event, during the event. It was a very, very honorable thing to do.
Well, that's pretty cool. What other things like that stand out in your life that you became like wow moments? Maybe something where you look back on it and wonder how it all came about.
You know, I guess my trip to Panama and my dumping my Jeep in the river was probably the most memorable thing for me at the time. since then, all the long distance rallies that I ran, were very reputable.
In a time where you could do that. Nowadays, I don't know if some of those areas are areas people would want to travel in.
Well, it wouldn't be very wise to travel where we went on the London Sydney, that's for sure. Because Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan was, an experience. I went to the Kaimor Pass.
Wow.
2:00 in the morning in a flash flood. That event. So that was, the Kaimor Pass is, a place you wouldn't want to go today.
No, and you did it at night in a flood.
So that was a very interesting event. My memory is with my age, I'm 86 now, so my memory is not what it used to be.
We understand. I'm 21 years behind you, and my memory is not so good either.
Yeah.
I call it beers and years, but it's more the years than the beers.
Yeah. Well, the beers I miss because I was a teetotaler. I never smoked. I never drank in my entire life. So, but that's just was my choice. I figured my father drank my share, so he would drink a fifth of scotch a day. But I never got involved with that. You see, my problem was all this racing and stuff. That took all my time.
Took all your time and money.
Yeah.
But it gave you memories and a history that's just, and life experiences that most people nowadays will never have a chance of fulfilling the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just the people that I met and became friends with from all around the world. That was the interesting part because it was not people from Orange County or California. It was people. I made friends with people from probably hundreds of countries. It was a big experience, big life experience.
From a guy from a small town in Southern California.
That's right. Fulton High School to Fulton Junior College. I did go to SC part time, but I did graduate from SC. I just attended a bunch of classes.
Well, I would like to say thank you so much for sharing your stories and your history with us. And it's been phenomenal listening to everything that you've done. I mean, you're quite accomplished with the traveling and different places that you've been able to race and see. And I really hope that things work out and you're able to be at the ORMHOF induction dinner in September. And because I'd like to say hello to you in person.
Okay, it'd be a pleasure. It'd be my pleasure.
And Brian, thank you so much. And you have a great remainder of the day.
Thank you. Thanks for the call. And I'm sorry my memory is not quick like it used to be.
That's quite all right. We just want to get the history while we can. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. And I'll be talking to you later. Bye-bye.
I said, bye.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.